Why is it important to talk about emotions? How you feel determines the quality of your life. Your emotions can make you feel miserable or truly magical. That's why they are among the most important things to focus on. Your emotions color all your experiences. When you feel good, everything seems feel or taste better. You also think better thoughts. Your energy levels are high and possibilities seem limitless. Conversely, when you feel depressed or everything seems dull, you have little energy and you become unmotivated. You feel stuck in place mentally and physically. You do not want to be in and the future looks gloomy. Your emotions can also act as a powerful guide. They can tell you something is wrong and allow you to make changes in your life. As such, they may be among the most powerful personal growth tools you have. Sadly, neither your teachers nor your parents taught you how emotions work or how to control them. I find it ironical that just about anything comes with a how to manual while your mind does not. You have never received an instruction manual to teach you how your mind works and how to use it to better manage your emotions. Have you? I haven't. In fact, until now, I doubt one even existed. What you will learn in this is the how to manual your parents should have given you at birth. It is the instruction manual you should have received at school. In it, I will share everything you need to know about emotions so you can overcome your fears, limitations, and become the type of person you really want to be. You will learn what emotions are, how they are formed, and how you can use them for your personal growth. You will also learn how to deal with negative emotions and conditions your mind to create more positive emotions. It is my sincere hope and expectation that by the end of this, you will have a clear understanding of what emotions are and will have all the tools you need to start taking control of them. More specifically, this will help you understand what emotions are and how they impact your life. Identify negative emotions that control your life and learn to overcome them. Change your story to take better control over your life and create a more compelling future and reprogram your mind to experience more positive emotions. Here is a more detailed summary of what you will learn in this. In part 1, we will discuss what emotions are. You will learn why you are wired to focus on negativity and what you can do to counter this effect. You will also discover how your belief impinges upon your emotions. Finally, you will learn how negative emotions work and why they are so tricky. In part 2, we will go over the things that directly impact your emotions. You will understand the rules of your body, your thoughts, your words, or your sleep play in your life and how you can use them to change your emotions. In part 3, you will learn how emotions are formed. You will also learn how to condition your mind to experience more positive emotions. And finally, in part 4, we will discuss how to use your emotions as a tool for personal growth. You will learn why you experience emotions such as fear or depression and how they work. You will then discover how to use them to grow. Let's get started. Part 1. What emotions are. Have you ever wondered what emotions are and what purpose they serve? In this section, we will discuss how your survival mechanism affects your emotions. Then we will explain what the ego is and how it impacts your emotions. Finally, we will discover the mechanism behind emotions and learn why negative emotions can be so hard to deal with. How your survival mechanism affects your emotions. Why people have a bias towards negativity. Your brain is designed for survival, which explains why you are able to listen this at this very moment. When you think about it, the probability of you being born was extremely low for this miracle to happen. All the generations before you had to survive long enough to procreate. In their quest for survival and procreation, they must have faced death hundreds or perhaps thousands of times. Fortunately, unlike your ancestors, you are probably not facing death every day. In fact, in many parts of the world, life has never been safer. Yet your survival mechanism has not changed much. Your brain still scans your environment looking for potential threats. In many ways, some parts of your brain have become obsolete. While you may not be seconds away from being eaten by a predator, your brain still gives significantly more weight to a negative event than the positive ones. Fear of rejection is one of the examples of a bias towards negativity. In the past, being rejected from your tribe would reduce your chances of survival significantly. Therefore, you learn to look for any sign of rejection, and this became hardwired in your brain. Nowadays, being rejected often carries little or no consequence to your long-term survival. You create you could be hated by the entire world and still have a job, a roof, and a plenty of food on the table, yet your brain is still programmed to perceive rejection as a threat to your survival. This is why rejection can be so painful. With, while you know most rejections are not a big deal, you nevertheless feel the emotional pain if you listen to your mind. You may even create a whole drama around it. You may believe you are not worthy of love and dwell on a rejection for a few days or weeks. Worse still, you may become depressed as a result of this rejection. In fact, one single mechanism or criticism can often overweight hundreds of positive ones. That's why an author with 55-star reviews is likely to feel terrible when they receive a single star rating or review. While the author understands the one-star review is not a threat to her survival, her authoritative brain does not. It likely interprets the negative review as a threat to her ego, which triggers an emotional reaction. The fear of rejection can also lead you to over dramatized events. If your boss criticized you at work, your brain may see this event as a threat and you think, what, I am fired? What if I could not find a job quickly enough and my wife leaves me? What about my kids? What if I could not see them again? While you are fortunate to have such an effective survival mechanism, it is also your responsibility to separate real threats from imaginary ones. If you do not want if you do not, you will experience unnecessary pain and worry that will negatively impact the quality of your life. To overcome this bias towards negativity, you must reprogram your brain. One of a being's greatest powers is our ability to use our thoughts to shape our reality and interpret events in a more empowering way. This will teach you how to do this. Why your brain's job is not to make you happy. Your brain's primary job is not to make you happy, but to ensure your survival. Thus, if you want to be happy, you must take control of your emotions rather than hoping you will be happy because it's your natural state. In the following section, we will discuss what happiness is and how it works. How dopamine can mess with your happiness. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter which, among other functions, play a major role in rewarding certain behaviors. When dopamine is when dopamine is released into specific areas of your brain, the pleasure centers you get in a high. This is what happens during exercise, when you gamble, have sex, or eat great food. One of the role of dopamine is to ensure you look for food so you do not die for starvation, and you search for a mate so you can reproduce. Without dopamine, our species would likely to be extinct by now. It's pretty good thing, right? Well, yes and no. In today's world, this reward system in many cases obsolete. While in the past dopamine was likely to our survival instinct, the release of dopamine can now be generated artificially. A great example of this effect is social media, which uses psychology to suck as much time as possible out of your life. Have you noticed all these notifications that popped up constantly? They are used to trigger a release of dopamine, so you stay connected, and the longer you stay connected, the more money the services make. Watching pornography or gambling also leads to a release of dopamine, which can make these activities highly addictive. Fortunately, we do not need to act each time our brain releases dopamine. For instance, we do not need to constantly check our Facebook newsfeed just because it gives you a pleasurable shot of dopamine. Today's society is selling a version of happiness that can make us unhappy. We have become addicted to dopamine largely because of marketers who have found effective ways to exploit our brains. We receive multiple shots of dopamine throughout the day and we love it. But is that the same thing as happiness? Worse than that, dopamine can create real addictions with severe consequences on our health. Research conducted at Tulane University showed that when given permission to self-stimulate their pleasure center, participants stayed it an average of 40 minutes per minute, 40 times per minute. They chose the stimulation of their pleasure center or food, even refusing to eat when hungry. Korean Lee's Shigen Shiok is an extreme case of the syndrome. In 2005, Mr. Shiok died after playing a video game for 58 hours straight with very little food or water and no sleep. The subsequent investigation conducted the cause of death was heart failure induced by exhaustion and dehydration. He was only 28 years old. To take control of your emotions, it is essential you to understand the role of dopamine that plays and how it affects your happiness. Are you addicted to phone? Are you glued to your TV? Or maybe you spend too much time playing video games. Most of us are addicted to something. For some people it's obvious, but for some it's more subtle. For instance, you could be addicted to thinking. To better control your emotions, it is important to shed the lights on your addictions as they can rob you from your happiness. The one day I will myth. Do you believe that one day you will achieve your dreams and finally be happy? This is unlikely to happen. You may, and I hope you will, achieve your dreams, but you will not live happily even after. This is just another trick your mind plays on you. Your mind quickly acclimates to new situations, which is probably the result of evolution and our need to adapt continuously in order to survive and reproduce. This is also probably why the new car or the new house you want will make you only happy for a while. Once the initial excitement wears off, you will go on to crave the next exciting thing. The phenomena is known as hedonic adaptation. How hedonic adaptation works. Let me share an interesting study that will likely change the way you see happiness. This study, which was conducted on lottery winners and paralegals, was extremely eye-opening for me. Conducted in 1978, the investigation evaluated how winning the lottery or becoming a paraplegic influenced happiness. The study found that 1 year after the event, both groups were just as happy as they were beforehand. Yes, just as happy or unhappy. You can find more about it by watching Dan Gilbert's TED Talk, The Surprising Sense of Happiness. Perhaps you believe that you will be happy once you have made it, but as the above study on happiness shows, this is simply not true. No matter what happens to you, you will revert back to your predominant levels of happiness once you adapt to the new event. This is how mind works. Does that mean you cannot be happier than you are right now? No. What it means is that in the long run, external events have very little impact on your happiness levels. In fact, according to Sonja, author of The How of Happiness, 50% of our happiness is determined by genetic, 40% of internal factors, and other 10% is by external only. These external factors include such things as whether we are single or married, rich or poor, and single similar social influences. This suggests only 10% of your happiness is linked to external factors, which is probably way less than you thought. The bottom line is that your attitude towards life influences your happiness, not what happens to you. By now, you understand how your survival mechanism impacts negativity, your emotions, and prevents you from experiencing more joy and happiness in your life. In the next section, we will learn about the ego. Your survival mechanism is not the only factor affecting your emotions. So, what is ego? Your ego also plays a major role in shaping the way you feel, thus, to gain more control over your emotions. It is the you fundamental you understand what your ego is and how it works. Now let's clarify what we mean by ego. We often say someone he has a big ego, referring to the ego as something close to pride. While pride is certainly a manifestation of ego, that's only a part of it. You may show no pride and appear humble while still being controlled by your ego. So, what is ego? The ego refers to self-identity you have constructed throughout your life. How you how was the identity created? Put simply, the ego was created through your emotions, through thoughts, and as a mind-centered identity has no concrete reality. Events that happen to you bear no meaning in themselves. You give them meaning only through your interpretation of those events. Additionally, you accept things about yourself because people told you to do so. What's moved your identity with your name, your age, your religion, your political belief, or your occupation in a similar way. This attachment has consequences. As we will see later in this, attachment creates beliefs, and these beliefs lead to experiences certain emotions. For instance, you may become offended when people criticize your religion or attack your political principles. Note that throughout this, we will refer to the ego as your story or your identity using these words interchangeably. Are you aware of your ego? Your understanding of the way your ego works depends on the level of your self awareness. People at the lowest level of subconsciousness are not even aware the ego exists. As a result, are answered by it. On the other hand, highly self-conscious people can see through their ego. They understand how beliefs work and how excessive attachment to a set of beliefs can create suffering in their lives. In effect, these individuals became the master of their minds and are at peace with themselves. Note that the ego is neither good nor bad. It is just a result of a lack of self-awareness. It fades away as you become aware of it, since ego and awareness cannot coexist. Your ego needs for an identity. Your ego is a selfish entity only concentrated about its own survival. Interestingly, it's rather similar to your brain in the way it operates. It has its own survival mechanism and will do whatever it can do to persist. As with your brain, its primary concern is neither your happiness nor your peace of mind. On the contrary, your ego is restless. It wants you to be a go-getter. It wants you to do so, have and achieve great things so you become as somebody. As we already mentioned, your ego needs an identity to exist. The way it does that is through identification with things, peoples, or beliefs and ideas. Now let's look at some of the things your ego identifies with to strengthen its identity. First is physical items. The ego likes to identify with physical items. Needless to say, it thrives in today's world. Perhaps we can say capitalism and the consumer society we are living in today is the creation of collective egos, which is why has been the dominant economic model in the recent decades. Marketers perfectly understand people needs to identify with the things they know. People do not just buy a product, they also buy the emotions or story attached to the product. Often you buy certain clothes or a particular car because you want to tell a story about yourself. For instance, you may want to enhance your status, look cool, or express your unique personality and choose the products most closely associated with their ideals. This is how the ego works. It uses things to create a story you can identify with. It does not mean things are wrong per side. It's a negative issue only when you become overly attached to things, believing they can fulfill you, which they can't. Your body. Most people derive their self-worth from their physical appearance. Your ego loves the way you look because it is the easiest thing to recognize and quantify. When you strongly associate with your physical appearance, you tend to identify more easily with physical and emotional pain. Believe it or not, you can observe your body without identifying with it. Friends and acquisitions. The ego also derives its sense of identity from relationships with others. The ego is the only interested in what it can get from others. In other words, the ego thrives on the way it can use people to strengthen its identity. If you are honest with yourself, you will realize most of the things you do are attempts to obtain approval of others. You want your parents to be proud of, your boss to respect you, and your wife to love you. Now let's see more detail how your ego works in following cases. Parent/children relationships. Some parents' egos lead to creation of a strong sense of attachment and identification with their children. This is based on the false belief their children are, are their possessions. As a result, they try to control their children's lives and use them to live the they wanted to live when they were younger. This is called living vicariously through your children. You see this all the time. Next time you watch a junior or basketball game, watch the parents on the touchline to see how some reacts. Try spotting the parents living vicariously. They are the ones screaming the loudest and not simply in encouragement. This may happen largely unconsciously. Couples, the feeling of needing someone is very much a play of ego as well. Anthony de Mello has a beautiful way to put it when he says, loneliness is not cured by human company. Loneliness is cured by contact with reality, by understanding that we do not need people. Once you realize you do not actually need anyone, you can start enjoying people company. You can see them as they really are rather than trying to get something from them. Your beliefs. Your ego also uses beliefs to strengthen its identity. In extreme cases, people believe to so attached to their beliefs they are ready to die to protect them. Worse still, they are willing to kill people who disagree with them. Religion is a perfect illustration of any dangers of excessive attachment to beliefs. The ego will use any belief to strengthen its identity, whether the beliefs are religious, political, or metaphysical. Other objects identification. Now let's have a look at a non-exhaustive list of things your ego generally derives its identity from. Your body, your name, your gender, your nationality, your culture, your family, your friends, your beliefs, be it political, religion, etc. Your personal story, your interpretation of past, your expectation regarding the future, your problems, your illness, your financial situation, your victim mindset, etc. And your ease, your jobs, your social status, your role as employee, homemaker, parent status, employee, etc. Material items like your house, cars, clothes, phones, etc. Your desires. The ego's main characteristics. Here are some main characteristics of the ego. The ego tends to equate having with being, which is why the ego likes to identify with objects. The ego lives through comparison. Your ego likes to compare itself with other egos. The ego is never satisfied. Your ego always wants more. More fame, more stuff, more recognition, and so on. The ego's sense of self worth often depends on the worth you have in the eyes of others. Your ego needs the approval of other people to feel valued. The ego needs to feel superior. Your ego wants to be feel superior to other egos. It wants to stand out and needs to create artificial separations to do that. Here are some segments it employs. Enhancing its value through people. If you have smart, famous friends, your ego will associate with them to strengthen its identity. This is why some people love to tell others how smart, rich, famous their friends are. Second, gossiping. People gossip because it makes them feel different and superior in some way. This is why some people like to put others down and talk behind their back. It makes them and everybody else in their gossiping group feel superior. Manifesting an inferiority complex. This hides a desire to be better than others. Yes, even in the case people wants to be feel superior. Fourth, manifesting a superiority complex. This hides the fear of not being good enough, looking for fame. This offers the illusion of superiority, which is why people often dream of becoming famous. Being right. The ego loves to be right. It's a great way of it to affirm its existence. Have you ever noticed that everybody from Adolf Hitler to Nelson Mandela believe they are doing the right thing? Most people think they are correct, but can everybody be right? Next, comparing. When people complain, by definition, they believe they are right and others are wrong. It works with other objects as well. Have you ever bumped into a table and complained or even insulted it? I have, and drained table was wrong to be in my way, wasn't it? Next, seeking attention. The ego likes to stand out. It loves recognition, praise, administration. To seek attention, people also admit crimes, wear eclectic clothes, or have tattoos all over their body. Your ego's impact on emotion. Understanding the way your ego works can help you better control your emotions. To do this, you must first realize your current story is the result of a strong identification with people, things, or ideas. This strong identification is the root of many of the negative emotions you experience in your life. When life does not unfold according to your personal story, you get upset, or when someone challenges one of your beliefs, you become defensive. In short, most of your emotions are based on your personal story and the way you perceive the world. As you replace your current story with a more empowering one, while at the same time letting go of your excessive attachment to things, peoples, or ideas, you will be able to experience more positive emotions. Later in this, we will see how you can change the way you interpret events.
The nature of emotions. Emotions can be tricky. In this section, we will discuss in depth how they work. By understanding this mechanism behind emotions, you will be able to manage them more efficiently as they arise. The first thing to understand is that emotions come and go. One moment you feel happy, the next moment you feel sad. While you do have some control over your emotions, you must also recognize their unpredictable nature. If you expect to be happy all the time, you set yourself up for failure. You then risk blaming yourself when you fail to be happy, or even worse, beat yourself up for it. To start taking control of your emotions, you must accept they are transient. You must learn to let them pass without feeling the need to identify strongly with them. You must allow yourself to feel sad without adding commentaries such as I should not be sad or what's wrong with me. Instead, you must allow reality to be just. No matter how mentally tough you are, you will still experience sadness, grief, or depression in your life. Hopefully, not at all the time are same and not continually. At times you will feel disappointed, betrayed, insecure, resentful, or shameful. You will doubt yourself and doubt your ability to be the person you want to be. But that's okay because your emotions come and go. Your negative emotions are not bad or useless. You may blame yourself for experiencing negative emotions, or perhaps you see yourself as mentally weak. You may even believe something is wrong with you. However, despite what your inner voice may say, your emotions are not bad. Emotions are simply emotions, nothing more. As such, being depressed does not make you feel a less person than you were 3 weeks ago when you were happy. Feeling sad now does not mean you will never be able to laugh again. Remember this: the way you interpret emotions as well as the blame game you engage in, this creates suffering, not the emotions create themselves. In fact, negative emotions can actually be helpful. Sometimes you need to touch rock bottom before you can reach the top. Even the toughest people on the earth become depressed. Elon Musk never imagined he would have a mental breakdown, but he did and he bounced back. Abraham Lincoln was depressed for months. This tragic event did not prevent him from becoming President of United States. Negative emotions often serve a purpose. They may serve as a wake-up call. They may help you learn something positive about yourself. Of course, when you are under their spell, it may be difficult to look at the bright side of things. But in hindsight, you may realize emotions, even sad ones, had their role to play in your ultimate success. The positive role of negative emotions. Your emotions are not here to make your life harder, but to tell you something. Without them, you would not grow. Think of your negative emotions as the emotional equivalent of physical pain. While you hate being in pain, if you do not have pain, chances are you would be dead by now. Physical pain sends a powerful signal that something is wrong, nudging you to take action of some kind. It could be a consult your doctor, which may lead to you undergo surgery, change your diet, or increase exercise. Without physical pain, you would not do any of these things, and your situation would worsen, potentially leading to a premature death. Emotions work the same way. They signal you to do something about your current situation. Perhaps you need to let go of some people, quit your job, or remove a disempowering story that creates suffering in your life. The fleeting nature of your emotions. No matter how depressed you are, how much grief you are experiencing, or how terrible you feel at a given point in your life, and this shall pass. Look at some of the negative emotions you experienced in the past. Remember the worst part in your life. During those most difficult periods, you were probably so caught up in your emotions. You imagine never being able to escape from them. You could not imagine being happy again. But even these episodes ended. Eventually, the clouds dissipated and the real you shone again. Your emotions come and they go. Your depression will go, and your sadness will vanish, and your anger will fade away definitely. Bear in the mind. If you experience the same emotions repeatedly, it is probably means you hold disempowering beliefs and you need to change something in your life. We will discuss how later. If you suffer from severe chronic depression, it might be a good idea to consult to a specialist. The trickness of emotions. Have you ever felt you will never be happy again? Have you ever been so attached to your emotions you thought they will never go away? Don't worry, it's a common feeling. Negative emotions act as a filter that taints the quality of your experiences. During a negative episode, every experience is perceived through this filter. While the world outside may remain the same, you will experience it in a completely different way based on how you feel. For instance, when you are depressed, you do not enjoy the food you eat, the movie you see, or the activities in which you engage. You only see the negative side of things, feeling trapped and powerless. On the other hand, when you are in a positive mood, everything in life appears better. Food tastes great, you naturally feel friendlier, and you enjoy all the activities you partake in. You may not believe that armed with this knowledge you have gained from this book, you will never be depressed again. Wrong. You will be and keep experiencing sadness, frustration, depression, or resentment. But hopefully, each time they occur, you will become wiser and wiser, remembering that this too shall pass. I have to admit, I can easily be fooled by my emotions. While I know I am not my emotions, I can still give them too much credit and fail to realize they are just temporary visitors. More importantly, I fail to remember they are not me. Emotions always come and go, but I remain. Once the emotional storm has passed, I generally feel like an idiot for having taken my emotions so seriously. Do you? Hmm. Interestingly, external factors might not be, and often are not, the direct cause of a sudden change in your emotional state. You can be in the exact situation with the same job, same amount of money in your bank account, and have the same problems as always, but experiencing radically different emotion states. In fact, if you look at your past, this is often what happens. You are mildly depressed for a couple of hours or a few days before rebounding back to your default emotional state. During this period of emotional stress, your environment does not change at all. The only thing that changes is your internal dialogue. I encourage you to take a conscious effort to notice whenever such events happen and start seeing through your emotions. Trickley, you might want to go one step further and record these events in a journal. By doing so, you will gain a deeper understanding of how emotions work, and as a result, you will be better equipped to manage them. The evil power of emotions. An emotion usually represents an amplified, energized thought pattern, and because of its often overpowering energy charges, it is not easily initially to stay present enough to be able to watch it. It wants to take you over, and it usually succeeds unless there is enough presence in you. With that note from the power of now, let's continue. Negative emotions are like a spell. While you are under their influence, breaking free from them seems impossible. You may know dwelling on the same thought is pointless, yet you can't help but go along with the flow. Feeling an intense pull, you keep identifying with your thoughts and, as a result, feel worse and worse. When this happens, no rational argument seems to work. The more these emotions fit your personal story, the stronger the pull becomes. For instance, if you believe you are not good enough, you may experience negative emotions such as guilt or shame. Each time you judge what you do is not good enough because you have experienced the emotions so many times before. They have not become an automatic response. For more information on the how identification with emotions works, refer to the section Identification in the upcoming episodes. The filtering power of emotions. Your emotional state can drastically affect your outlook on life, leading you to act and behave differently. When you are in a positive state, you have more energy available. This gives you more confidence in everything you do and openness to consider new actions that could improve your life, the ability to leave or break out of your comfort zone, more emotional room to preserve during tough times, better ideas and enhanced creativity, and easy to access positive emotions within the same emotional range. When you are in a negative state of mind, you have less energy available and giving you a lack of confidence that affect everything you do, a lack of motivation that reduces the scope of actions you are willing to take, a reluctance to take new challenges and leave your comfort zone, a reduced ability to preserve and perceive face of setbacks, and a prosperity to attract negative thoughts within the same emotional range. Let's have a look at a real example, the real life example. Let me share with you a real example from my own life story. Both causes happened under the same external conditions. The only difference was my emotional state at that time. Case 1. Feeling excited about my online business more confidently in everything I do. I feel as though my ideas are good. I am excited to work on my books and eager to write articles. I am open to sharing my work and promoting it. An openness to consider new courses of actions. I am open to new ideas or to work on a new project. I can think of ways to collaborate with other authors and start building a new coaching program to offer my audience the ability to get out of my comfort zone. It becomes easier for me to push myself beyond my comfort zone. I may contact people I don't know or run Facebook lives, for instance. More emotional room to preserve. I stick to my own projects even when I lack motivation. Better ideas and enhanced creativity. I am open to new ideas. I might come up with new ideas for books, articles, or other creative projects. Easy access to more positive emotions. I attract more positive emotions at the same time my mind rejects negative thoughts more easily by refusing to identify with them. Case 2. Feeling madly depressed due to my lack of results. A lack of confidence. I start doubting myself on all the projects I am currently working on. Suddenly, everything I do becomes useless or not good though. Thoughts like, what's the point? I'm not good to make it. I'm stupid cross my mind. Needless to say, promoting myself becomes a major challenge, a lack of motivation. I don't feel like doing anything. I am attacked by and am unable to escape negative thoughts. I have the same negative thoughts again and again, which repeat like a broken record. They seem so real and taint all my experiences, a difficulty to take on new challenges. I have little energy left over to leave my comfort and undertake challenges projects. A reduced ability to perceive. I have difficulty in finishing tasks and I procrastinate over tasks I should be working on. A propensity to attract negative thoughts. I attract more and more negative thoughts, although these thoughts may have been crossed my mind before. Now they stick fast. By identifying with these thoughts, I generate more negative emotions. Both cases happened only a few days apart. The external environment was exact same, but my emotional state was radically different and led me to take different actions. The magnetic power of emotions. Your emotions act like magnets. They attract thoughts on the same wave. That's why when you are in a negative state, you are easily attracted to other negative thoughts. And by latching on to these thoughts, you make the situation worse. As Tolle wrote in The Power of Now, often a vicious cycle builds up between your thinking and the emotion. They feed each together. The other thought pattern creates a magnificent reflection of itself in the form of an emotion, and the vibrant frequency of the emotion keeps feeding the original thought pattern. Now, let's see what you can do to break free from the magnetic power of your emotions. Breaking the magnetic power of emotions. Let's say you have a bad day at work and you are in a terrible mood. The negative state you are in causes you to attract more negative thoughts. Suddenly, you fixate on the fact you are still single at 30 and start beating yourself over it. Then you blame yourself for being overweight. You also remember you have to go to office the following Saturday, which reminds you how much your job sucks. Do you see how much easier it is to attract negative thoughts when you are feeling low? To prevent this from happening, it's essential you to remove the habit of clustering negative thoughts together. A real life example. Here it goes. I have knee problems, which prevent me from practicing many sports. Since I have always loved sports, these injuries have been a source of emotional pain. Fortunately, I seldom feel pain in my knees, but when I do, it can trigger negative emotions. One day, as I was observing my thoughts process, we all have different hobbies, haven't we? I realized experiencing pain in my knees negatively affected my mood, more negative emotions. A negative feedback loop. The pain would cause me to focus on all the things that were going wrong at that time. From my work to my personal life, as a result, I would experience negative emotions for hours or even days. The point I am making is no matter how great your life is, if you spend most of your time focusing on your problems, you will become depressed. Thus, to reduce negative emotions, you must learn to compartmentalize your issues. Do not let your mind over dramatize things by clustering unrelated issues. It will only make you feel worse. Instead, remember that negative emotions exist only in your mind. Taken separately, most of your issues are not such a big deal, and there is no rule that says you have to solve them all at once. Start noticing how you feel. Record your negative emotions. Look at what triggered them. The more you do this, the more you will uncover certain patterns. For example, let's say you felt sad for a couple of days. Ask yourself the following questions, like, what triggered my emotions? What fueled them over the 2 day period? What story was I telling myself? How and what did and why did I get out of my slump? What can I learn from this episode? Answer these questions will be inevitably invaluable and will greatly help you to deal with similar issues in near future. Your emotional accessibility. We previously saw you attract thoughts that match your emotional state. The opposite is also true. You cannot attract thoughts that are out of your sync with how you feel at a given time. Even if you tried to think positive emotions, your mind would not be receptive to them. This is why, during periods of sadness, while positive emotions may across your mind from time to time, you would not be able to associate with them and you would not be able to change your emotion state. And here comes your emotional set point. Have you ever been told to cheer up when you were grieving or express gratitude when you were depressed? Did it help? It probably did not. This is because the emotional state you were in did not allow you to access these emotions. In this episode, Ask and it is given Esther and Jerry Hicks offer a model to explain how emotional ranges are connected and how we can move up the ladder from negative to more positive emotions. For instance, in the model, depression and or hopelessness is at the bottom of the ladder, followed by anger. What it means is that when you feel depressed, signs of anger indicate you are climbing the emotional ladder. This makes sense. When you are angry, you have more energy than you are depressed, right? Recently, after being depressed for a while, I experienced feelings of anger for some reason. I got tired of the stories and excuses running through my mind, and I used the anger as a fuel to complete the task I had been avoiding. As a result, I was able to create momentum and climb up the emotional ladder. Whenever you experience negative emotions, watch your emotions. That will give you more energy. So called negative emotions like anger can help you to overcome more disempowering emotions like hopelessness. Only you know how you feel it. Therefore, if anger feels better, accept it. Emotions and mental suffering. Did you know you create a lot of unnecessary pain in your life? Each time you lock on a thought or hold on to an emotion, you suffer. A great example of this how you react to physical pain. Whenever you feel pain, your first reaction is to interpret it. When you do so, you generate negative thoughts. Your identification with these thoughts is what creates mental suffering. Below are some of the thoughts that may cross your mind in the situations. What if the pain never goes away? What if I can't do XYZ anymore because of the pain? What if it gets worse? What if I need to undergo surgery? What if I can't go to work? I have a project I must finish on time. With the pain today going to be challenging, I don't have money. How will I pay hospital bills if things get worse? The internal dialogue creates suffering but does nothing to solve our problems. You can still function properly and take appropriate actions without dwelling on the above worries. Negative emotions are not problems. The mental suffering you create out of these emotions are the real problems. Another example of mental suffering is procrastination. Have you ever delayed such starting task for few days or weeks just to realize it was not a big deal once you completed it? I have. What was the most exhausting part? The task itself, or the time you spent worrying about it? Or perhaps you did not sleep long enough and keep telling yourself today going to be a rough day. As you imagine all the tasks you needed to do, you already feel exhausted. Psychologists have shown the mental suffering is what consumes most of your energy. After all, sitting at a desk all day should not be that tiring, yet many of us feel exhausted at the end of the day. In the classic book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, Dale Carnegie wrote about the following. One of the America's most distinguished psychiatrists, Dr. A. Brill, goes even further. He declares 100% of the fatigue of the secondary sentry worker in a good health is due to psychological factors, by which we meant emotional factors. People inflict a tremendous amount of suffering on themselves. As you continue to listening this, you will realize the idiocy of the activity. You will notice people around you dwelling on the past they cannot alter. You will see family members and friends worrying about the future they cannot predict. You will witness people having the same repeated thoughts running in circles fight a problem that exists only in their minds. For thousands of years, mystics have told us the problems are in our mind. They have repeatedly, inevitably us to look within. Yet today, how many people are listening? Too many of us are addicted to our problems instead of letting them go. We complain, we play victim games, we blame other people, or we discuss our problems without doing anything to solve them. To reduce the mental suffering, we must refuse to interpret our emotions in a negative and disempowering way. Now let's understand why problems don't exist. Hmm. If we go one step further and look at the reality in an objective way, we can say that problems do not actually exist. Here is why. What you do not focus on does not exist. A problem only exists when you give it your attention. From your mind perspective, what you do not give any thought to does not exist. Let's take a hypothetical example. Imagine you lose your legs. If you accept that fact immediately and refuse to give it any thought, there will be no problem and thus no mental suffering. You would simply be living in reality. Of course, that's usually not what happens. A problem exists only in time. A problem can only exist in the past or in the future. And where do the past and future exist? You are right, in your mind. To acknowledge a problem, you must use your thoughts, and thoughts exist in time, not in the present moment. Remember, thoughts exist in time, not in the present moment. A problem needs to be labeled as a problem to actually exist. A problem exists only when you interpret it as a problem, otherwise, it's not a problem. This concept may be hard to grasp first, but it's the key theory in the next section. We will look at different components affecting your emotions. And here we are completed with our part 1. And I am very grateful to you for listening till now.